Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael de Furia, aka Rafi D is me, and I am back at it again on another beautiful Friday night. So last week we spoke again more about being an expat, navigating your way through the system in Italy, and life here in general, kind of what I would have done differently. And tonight we're going to be talking about a subject I get asked about quite often, and actually was asked on the last video. I'm going to need my glasses for this one, but username Prudence Blue left the question, how much did it cost for you to move there? I'm thinking that we would need to save 15 to 20,000 to move to pay for the flight, 6 to 7 people, moving our stuff, getting us into an apartment/home, and some cushion to pay for stuff that will inevitably come up. And just before I answer that, before we get too much deeper into the video, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian citizenship, and more, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, I would really appreciate that. Thank you to those of you who are helping to support this channel and make videos like this possible through Patreon and also by getting t-shirts. If you're also interested in helping to support, links are down in the more info section below. There are a bunch of different t-shirt designs, and there's other ways that you can help the channel too. But when we're talking about moving here, how much do you need? I'd say this is going to vary a lot based on a few different factors. What kind of lifestyle you have, what kind of lifestyle you will have here, if you plan to work or if you don't plan to work, where in the country you'll be, because all over the country, the prices vary greatly. For example, if you got a 2-room apartment, which is a 1-bedroom apartment in American terms, would cost you, depending on where you are, anywhere between $550 and $850, but could even be more if you're in the center of a major city like Milan. Or if you're down in Sicily, you could spend anywhere from about, say, maybe $250 to $350, or maybe a little bit more if you're in a larger, newer apartment in the middle of Palermo. If you go out into the middle of the country, it could cost you very little, but if you go into the middle of a city, it could also cost you a lot. But even some places out in the middle of nowhere are also millions of euros. And I'm talking about for purchasing. But specifically in regards to the question about 6 to 7 people with a $15,000 to $20,000 budget, I came here personally with a lot less than that, and it was nowhere near enough. But I had two options. Either I save up for a while and I come here very comfortably, and then that would also mean waiting God knows how long, how many years. And I'd already been waiting for like 14 years before I could make this happen. And at the timing in my life, it just happened to be just perfect to make the jump right then and there, even though it would be taking a chance and things could be a little bit more rough for the first few years. So I decided to take a chance and just come here. And like I've said before in other videos, in some ways it's been the worst decision to make financially. However, I'm happier than I've been in a long time, and I really do enjoy and love being here. So that was the thing, that I was single, mid-20s, ready to make a big move, take a chance with my own life. Wasn't in a relationship, didn't have kids, and I could take that chance, and I was willing to take that chance with my own life. Lifestyle, everything. Not only did I have the desire to come here for such a long time, like I've said, it was just the perfect point in my life, and I knew one way or the other I was going to make my way here. So for me, there was no option but to come here. Okay, I mean, there were other options, practically speaking, but still. In some ways, there was really no option other than, like, for my own happiness, but to come here. But if we're talking about 6 to 7 people coming in one family, I'm assuming that we're talking that children would be involved. And in general, I would say taking a chance with children might not be the best idea to do, especially if you don't already have jobs or income lined up before you come here. I would say expect to come here and not find a job at all, at least for a while. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's something really to think about, the lifestyle that you're going to have here. Somebody had contacted me recently and said they were wanting to move from where they're living in the United States because they're working 10 to 12 hours per day. Life is tough and they're ready for something different. But again, I would say Italy is not the place to come to make your millions. There are certain things here where life can be a little bit more easy. Like, depending on where you are in the country, unlike in the States, the mindset is more about working to live rather than living to work. I would say expect in Italy that incomes are going to be a little bit lower, and expendable income is going to be even lower. And then also the other thing is that if you're coming to the country for the first time, it's going to be very common that people will not want to rent to you. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very concerned about, if something happens to you, are you going to leave the apartment in shambles and just run out of the country and not pay any debts or whatever that might come along with the apartment, that you might rack up some sort of bill, or stay in the apartment forever and not pay them? Because in Italy, a lot of the laws are stacked more towards the tenants rather than the owners. So people who are renting their apartments really want to make sure they're getting the right people coming in there, at least the right people from their own personal perspective. You might find people who are willing to be a bit flexible, but still, I would say that's less common, but it does still exist out there. So is 15 to 20,000 enough for a family of 6 to 7? I would say you might be pushing it. Even maybe for a couple or a couple with one child, I would say that's still kind of pushing it a little bit, because you have to consider flights per person from wherever you might be coming from could be anywhere from a few $100s to $1,000 per ticket. So let's go on the higher end of maybe about $1,200 per ticket. If we're talking about 7 people, that's going to be $8,400 for all 7 people just to get to the country. And that's not considering taxis or buses or any sort of transportation, renting a car once you arrive here. Then you have to consider that renting an apartment can be quite expensive. A lot of places want 1 year security plus another year in a fiducione, like a security deposit of sort. And then also, if you're renting here for the first time, it's not a bad idea to actually have an agent, and those agent fees can often be 1 to 2 months. So let's say that maybe you're lucky and you find a place that's large enough for your whole family, and say it's about maybe €1,000. So over the course of 12 months, that's going to be €12,000 plus the security deposit of another €12,000 plus the fiducione of another €12,000 plus the agent's fee, which could be another €2,000. And then that's not even considering electricity, heating, gas, whatever you might need, food. The prices of food also change depending where you are in the country, but I'm not going to include that in these calculations. And yes, some of these numbers that I've mentioned are on the high end, but if you're going to be moving to the middle of a city, then these numbers are probably going to be a little bit on the lower end. And again, it depends on what you're looking for and where you're looking for. The prices vary widely across the whole country, so it's hard to say a blanket answer for the whole country when everything is so different wherever you go. And then also, if we're talking about moving your stuff, this is something I would recommend partially against, partially for, partially against. If there are things that are really important to you, like family photo albums, those are something you have to hold on to. And if you don't have family that's staying in the US and you can't keep it safe there, then the only way that is safe to bring it with you is in your own carry-on. So if you have albums and albums and albums, it's time to start taking the pictures apart and keeping them safe in either little small boxes that weigh nothing or in Ziploc bags. Or if you can leave them with family in the States that you can trust, then it's probably better to leave them there until you know for sure things are going to be solid out here. So for sure, unless you have an amazing bed that cost you like $8,000 that is made of the purest of pure wool, then don't even consider really bringing furniture here. American furniture very often will be too big for apartments here and could even be too big to get in some doors. And it's not impossible to find an American-sized refrigerator. I mean, you can go to a regular appliance store and find something that's kind of closer to an American size out here. But in general, refrigerators are going to be a bit smaller out here. And even the space that you might have in your kitchen. And like I mentioned in my video about renting an apartment in Italy, if the apartment is completely unfurnished, that means you don't even have countertops in the kitchen, nothing. And so that you have to purchase that, paint the walls, all of that on your own. And then when you leave the apartment, you hope that maybe you can get lucky and sell it to the next person, or you have to completely remove everything and give the apartment back as you found it. So then we're talking about potentially another few €1,000 on top for furniture. But for moving itself, that can be anywhere from like couple $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. I actually have a guy that I've used in the past and I've had friends use who's moved people all over the world that I would totally trust to get my stuff to where it's supposed to go. So if you do need a recommendation, feel free to contact me privately about that. I'll be more than happy to pass along that information. It's not like a lot of movers where you have to have a full container's worth. This person that I've actually hired before does partial containers, but the minimum isn't actually too much. It's kind of a fair amount of stuff. So just to rewind it a little bit, if we're talking about just the flights and the apartment alone, we're talking about €46,400, roughly. This is an estimate. This is kind of more if you want to be maybe a little bit closer to a city and maybe even in some cities. But if you want to go out into the middle of nowhere, you can potentially do the apartment part for much less. For example, if you're able to take part in one of these initiatives going on where you pay €1 for a dilapidated building, then okay, that price comes down. But consider that with one of those places where you only have to pay €1 for the property, you have to use a specific company that's approved by the city to do the renovations, and very often this can cost in the range of maybe 40 to 60,000 euros, potentially more depending on what specifications you have. And then also, these numbers aren't even considering food and electricity, gas, clothing, the daily things that come up. Tissues, Christmas, or any other holidays if you do those sorts of things. Again though, I personally was able to come here with much less, but it wasn't anywhere near enough. And I did get lucky with some things. So if you are willing to take the chance, and if you're feeling a bit adventurous, it can be a great adventure to go on. I know I've been loving it, as tough as it's been. But the question is, do you want to take those chances with children? Of course, like I've said before, I think it's better to come here when your children are younger. But the one part I didn't mention in my last video was that I don't necessarily think it's the best idea for kids to go back and forth between countries. It's already going to be tough enough for them to make the switch once, but to have to go back and forth, that could be a little bit more tricky. So is a budget of 15 to 20,000 enough? It depends. Maybe not, but if you really know how to stretch every last dollar and make every penny count, maybe you could make it work. But like I mentioned in previous videos, if you have a way of potentially earning money online that doesn't have anything to do with the local economy or anything here, and not having to learn the language right away, that you can get income coming in, it's better if you can come here with that in place, to have an online job already. And it's better to get that going before you arrive here, so that you know, okay, this job is appropriate for me or not. This job is bringing in enough money or not. There's actually, if you look online, it's very easy to find, but if you type in the name of the town where you want to go, or the next largest city to that area, and cost of living, there's a website out there that should have some information which will have a rough idea. I can't remember the name of the website offhand, but if you do a little Google search, it should be easy to find. If you can't find it, send me a message and I'll be more than happy to send you a link. It's not always the most accurate, but over the years, because it's based on user information, it's been getting better and better. I know I'm repeating myself here, but one way or another, I know I've enjoyed the experience and I've enjoyed this challenge, as difficult as it may be. And I'm not an adventurous person, but in this case, I was willing to try to be a little bit adventurous and push beyond my boundaries a little bit. Normally, I'm the type of person that thinks things out very methodically before I approach the situation. And there were certain things that I did think about beforehand, but you do have to be flexible sometimes and be willing to sometimes jump into the deep end. But then the question kind of becomes, how far into the deep end do you want to jump? But for those of you out there who have made the move out to Italy, how much did it cost you? What was your budget? What were the things you planned for? And what were maybe some of the costs that came up that you didn't plan for and you couldn't have planned for, that ended up popping up, that maybe added a monkey wrench into the whole thing? But for those of you who haven't come here yet, what are some of the costs that you're concerned about? Are you thinking about moving your stuff here, or are you thinking about trying to start out as fresh as possible once you arrive? Are you doing it as a single person, or are you doing it as a family? Have you done it already? And did you do it as a single person, or did you do it as a family? And would you do it differently with what you know now? And of course, if you would like to see more videos like this, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, I would really appreciate it, as it does help out the channel. And also, if you would like to help support the channel, there are shirts available, or if you would like to help support this channel on a monthly basis, even for just $1 a month, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon, or if you'd like to help out just once, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/support. And as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi D is me. Thank you for joining me on another beautiful Friday night. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing y'all next Friday. Later.